is 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city. I got you. Rep your city. I'm gonna tell you not mine. Rep your city.
It's time for us to go live, so rep your city. I really would appreciate if y'all roll with me. Feeling this music cause it makes me wanna step. And if you don't want it to, then you lying to yourself. Cause every time we party, we gon' have fun. I don't know about you, but I'ma rep where I'm from.
Rep your city. Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city.
Welcome to the RYC Live show this evening. I am your host for tonight. My name is Artistic, and this is Rep Your City Fresh Friday. We are back once again with another special episode with another special guest tonight. But before I introduce my guest tonight, who's now backstage, I'd like to just remind everyone, if you have not done so already, to please share this broadcast if you can. Share it to a friend, to a family, to a crewmate, anyone that you think might be interested in our discussion. We are going to be talking about hip hop tonight, the Hip Hop Museum in Milwaukee, and just, we celebrate 50 years of hip hop. So that should be also an interesting topic for discussion tonight as well. Also, too, if you'd like to be a future guest on a future show here at the RYC Live platform, please do subscribe to our channel on RYC Live on YouTube, or you can send us a email to ryclive@yahoo.com. That's ryclive@yahoo.com, and someone from the team will be more than happy to get back to you. You can also hit me up directly on Facebook. You can hit me up in the inbox on Messenger. For those of you who have my number, you know how to reach me. If you're in Chicago and you're local, you can come down to the Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Museum and check us out. We're there on Wednesdays and Saturdays every week and weekend from 12 to 5. Okay? So with that being said, once again, we're broadcasting live from the Windy City here in Chicago. It's cold out tonight. So hopefully anybody that's in Chicago, you're keeping warm. And shout out to all of my other fellow hip hoppers around the world here in the States, as well as the other cities and countries around the globe. That's what's up. So I'm excited. I hope you all are ready to tune in to, participate. Please send us any comments that you have or any questions that you may have for our guests. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce my homegirl from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Her name is Antonia, and she has a museum in Milwaukee that me and my wife had the privilege to visit last year, actually, when I found out. And this is interesting. Quick story. My wife and I were out shopping one night, and we were at Walmart, to be exact. And I remember scrolling through my timeline on my phone, and I seen this video talking about hip hop in Milwaukee. So I'm looking at the video and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, "What is this? It's a museum. Where did this come from? I had never heard or was aware of it." And so, it was a gentleman on there talking, and then, I seen Antonia, and then I'm like, and I'm just like, this is in, and I looked at it and I said, this is in Milwaukee. I'm like, babe, we got to go to Milwaukee. We got to go check out the museum in Milwaukee. She's like, what? So in May of last year, we were celebrating our 19th anniversary, my wife and I, Tracy, and we had got the privilege to go. In fact, we drove up to Milwaukee. to see Antonia and the 365 hip hop museum that she has in Milwaukee. So we want to encourage any of you that have not done so already to please visit Antonia with the 365 and hip hop museum in Milwaukee. And she's right now backstage and she's going to talk about it. She'll give you all the information you need for you and anyone that you'd like to bring with you to do a tour. I'm sure that if you have any artifacts, you can speak with Antonia about donating artifacts as well and monetary donations as well. We got to keep hip hop alive, especially us here in the Midwest. You know, they're doing their thing over in New York. That's coming along, the Universal Hip Hop Museum. And then there's museums popping up all over the world now. So we got to continue to preserve our legacy and our culture. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my girl, Antonia. There she is. Welcome to the RYC Live Show.
How you doing on this cold Friday?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay warm over here.
Right, me too. It's cold in the Midwest.
Yes. You know, some people, they I got friends that live in other warmer climates like Florida and Texas and Arizona and California, and they sitting back, in a reclining chair. The little some friends. I just seen a picture of one of my friends at the beach. And I'm like, wow, we can't do that right now.
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, thank you for inviting me on.
Yes, for sure. I was just saying, we had to come check you out, because I love hip hop,
right.
And anyone else that I see that is into it as well, no matter how much they're into it, if they show any kind of display of interest in hip hop, I want to come vibe with them. I want to come.
I appreciate you and your wife coming. I promise you, watch. I'm gonna pop up on y'all in Chicago. Watch. Really?
Yeah, because I feel like right now that we're in a time in our life where hip hop is beginning to get recognized and get its respect, and I'm just glad that I'm still alive to be able to witness this happen. And when I was younger, I would hear stories about the movements like blues and jazz, soul, funk, those movements, were before our time because we didn't really grow up in them per se, but we were aware of them at least. And I used to always wonder how that felt. And now I can honestly say I know, because I did come up in the era of hip hop, and we've been here for a long time, and I feel like now I can relate to how the people related in those earlier movements, and what they did to continue to preserve it and keep it alive. And so I feel it's our duty to do the same. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just want to say, at first, I was very impressed with your museum exhibit, all the artifacts of things you had on display. There is a difference, and that's another reason why I wanted to come, because there is a difference between people showcasing stuff versus people that also lived it. And I like some of the stuff that you had in your museum. It took me back because I was like, wow, I had this record, or I had this cassette, and I remember the times that during that time when it was going on, what was happening coming up as a youngster. And I think that's why it's so important for people to understand, even if you didn't live it, if you're going to showcase it, you should be able to teach and educate people about the culture of hip hop and what it really is. Because for many years, people said it wasn't going to last. It was a fad. It's not a real art form, and all this and what have you, right? But it's 2023 and we're still here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so,
what do you want to be referred as, artistic or Daryl? So I can make
sure.
Yes, artistic.
Right. Yep. Artistic. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I started off in hip hop first as a b-boy, and then I got into graffiti, and that's where I got my name Artistic. But some people feel like, well, when you get older, you you leave that behind. But I'm a represent until the end, right?
Exactly.
Because that's what hip hop is all about. Hip hop, it started off for us as young people, but
Mm-hmm.
we older now, but we can still enjoy it. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this a lot of the things that I used to do, but I still
Mm-hmm.
enjoy watching the young people do it.
Right.
And if they're willing to give a listening ear to an old fella like me, I'll kindly share my wisdom with them.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So let's talk about you. I want to know, like, where are you originally from?
Well, I was originally born in Chicago. And I know
Okay.
as soon as you got into it, I was like, okay, who is this asking me all these questions? You was like, you from Chicago? And I was like, I was born in Chicago. So
Right,
I'm not
right.
going to give the exact year.
Okay.
But I was born in Chicago. At that time, my father was in the service in Chicago. And my
Okay.
mom and dad, my mother was from Henning, Tennessee, and my father was from Ripley, Tennessee, home of
Okay.
Alex Haley. And
Okay.
they migrated here like everybody else, getting away from the South in the late 60s. And I was the fourth child. My mother had one daughter, set of boy twins, and then it was me. So while they were in Chicago, briefly, I was born in Chicago en route to Cook County Hospital. So by the time they got to the hospital, I came out in my uncle's vehicle, like in the front seat. So they stayed there. Yeah, I was a car baby. I'm trying to remember the year, what
Uh-huh.
it would have been, but I forget. I'm a Chevy baby.
Okay.
Um, but I was born in Chicago. And my
Got
parents stayed there maybe a year or so afterwards, and then they came to Milwaukee. But I'm originally from the Windy City by
That's
birth.
very
Yeah,
interesting. Very
yeah,
interesting.
it is.
So, and it's okay because we're still neighbors. We're very close. So
Exactly.
let's talk about, you coming up as a young girl in Milwaukee. I mean, like, what
Mhm.
was it that got you wanting to participate or, listen and follow hip hop?
Okay, and if I'd have been thinking, I'd have pulled out one of my albums, but I could still talk about it. I
Mhm.
remember in the late 80s, I'm from Milwaukee, but I had moved to California. And
Okay.
I was living in California from about 84 to, I want to say, 86. And
Uh-huh.
due to issues and me being there by myself, I came back to Milwaukee.
Hmm.
And, that was the crack area.
Yep.
So, if anybody was doing drugs, no matter how they started, they might have ended up, with Ready Rock. But
Hmm.
when Public Enemy and Stop the Violence movement came out, and yeah, back in that day, I was good. But Ronald Reagan did some things where Black people, we all weren't good for a minute. Some of us, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Because I
Hmm.
think what happened is whatever traumas we had within ourselves, we might have fallen into something. But that's when it started with me, back in like the end of the 80s, when they were conscious, they were wearing their outfits, and it was like the civil rights movement all over again. And I know artistic, that hip hop came out the next voice of the civil rights movement. And at that
Yes.
time, I didn't catch on, even though history was in my head, I didn't catch on. This is the new wave. I just knew they were talking about things that I wanted to hear, like Public Enemy, what they were talking about on the dance floor. We were taking it in at that time.
Okay. So let's go back because, I'm just trying to, and the reason why I do this, that's the reason why I do my show like this, is
Mm-hmm.
to help paint a picture, not only for you and I, but all
Mm-hmm.
the viewers watching, because some people are young. It's a lot of young people out here today that's into hip hop, right? And
Exactly.
that's a good thing, but
Right.
some people don't understand how important history is. And so when I try to, my goal is when I do these shows, I try to paint a picture to help people to see the importance of timelines.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2023, but if we just go back to 2020, we was in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of a pandemic, right? You know,
2019, I know exactly when it hit.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
when I worked for Milwaukee Public School, and I had it sweet because now we could stay home and work off the computer. So at that time, I already had, because I'm a history person, I already had my vinyl albums. I already had previous history from way back in slavery here in my home that was like boxed up. And
Yeah.
some of the stuff I would go out to events, community events, and I was like, can't go now. I couldn't even go work my job in the community. So I think not only for me, but a lot of African Americans was like the old day, what we gonna do? We gonna sell some dinners, we gonna sell some this, we gonna sell some that. What we gonna do? So I started pulling my stuff out of the box and I just started putting it up on the wall. That was 2019 during COVID while I was
So
working.
that's what prompted you to launch your museum, was because of the pandemic.
It prompted me to launch it in my home because I realized I couldn't go out carrying all this stuff in the community because nothing was open. And some said, Ying, pull it out, put it up. So, I get my best thoughts when I'm dreaming, and I started dreaming. I said, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to start with this wall. I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to start with this wall. I'm going to do this. Then and it just like looked up and there it is. I just said, oops, there it is. So
yeah, oops, there it is.
Oops, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's go back in time in terms of hip hop, because obviously you've been around enough to have seen some of the groups when they came out, like Run DMC and the Fat Boys and stuff. So when you heard some of those groups that came out in the 80s, what was that like for you? Did it register to you? Did you like it, or were you kind of like, what is that? What was that like back then?
Well, again, and I remember it vividly because I recently returned. Well, I was in California when they were really starting it. So because first of all, it was some earthquakes out there, and then I had a relationship. I ended up coming back home, but that's when it really got started. So I really didn't have the time to listen to it in California because I was out there hustling, trying to pay the rent. So when I returned to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee is like one of the highest segregated cities here, it was bam. They was first, snorting, and then it went to Ready Rock like everywhere else. And at that time, hip hop was bringing awareness to what was going on in their community. So no matter what club we went in, which I can remember exactly which one, they were playing that music. We were dancing. We were shaking that flow, and it was seeping into our heads. And at that time, I didn't peak that this is like the same civil rights movement. I just know that I was, we were jamming to it and we would listen to it. And this would be Public Enemy. I know you said the Fat Boys, but the ones that was the consciousness, even though we were like maybe not in our right minds, we were still listening to it. We were still dressing in the African attire and all of that type of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely in the late 80s. That's when that's when that all came out, because Public Enemy, they came out hard, as conscious rappers, and others followed as well. So that definitely was the late 80s.
Exactly.
And I can understand how, and that's the thing I like to paint the picture, because sometimes people don't relate, but it also has to do with where you were at the time. So like you said, in the earlier 80s, you was in California. So, in
the end of the 80s, the early 80s, I was still in Milwaukee. I went to California like 84 and stayed there till like 86 when it was like pumping. I was hearing it, but I was working.
Yeah. See, and that's my point. Like, because even in 84, stuff was blossoming, but it all depends on what you were doing at the time in terms of what was, kind of sticking to you, with what was going on. Because, in 84, breakdancing was very popular.
Right.
Now, and I'm talking about around America. Breakdancing was huge. 1983, 1984, it was an explosion in America with breakdancing. So it really didn't matter where you was at the time in 83 and 84. If you were alive, you were witnessing somebody breakdancing.
Exactly.
Because they were doing it in New York. They were doing it in Chicago. They were doing it in Los Angeles. They were doing it down south. It was everywhere. So, but again, I think it all depends on, how busy you were in terms of what you were doing with your life. because for me, I was still a young person, and in school, and that was the talk. That was the thing to watch. Michael Jackson was popular during that time.
Exactly.
So everybody was trying to be like Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
R&B was rolling too then, like Anita Baker.
Yeah.
And they was rolling too before that.
Yeah. And then not to mention, we had Soul Train. So,
for sure.
Black families around, around the country, we were tuned in to the Soul Train every weekend.
And really, when I went to California, that was like my dream to make it. But again, I went with somebody like, you ain't going on the Soul Train. But that was like my thing. I was going to get on Soul Train and dance when I went there. But I never made the Soul Train.
That's okay. Yeah. I tell people that even if we didn't get a chance to go on the show per se, in physical form, we watched it. And that was just as good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So around that time, that's when. And then, did you ever get into it at all? Like, did you try to start rapping? Did you dance at all, or did you participate in any other elements in hip hop during any of those years?
At that time, I was trying to still, get in college and stuff. Dealing with, I had a young child at the time, so I was really, like I said, I was just trying to work, to feed myself, especially out there in California. And before I left, that's when it was coming to Mr. Ronald Reagan, which we couldn't blame. That's other story that came and ruined with the war on drugs and all of this and all of that. But I wasn't able to get into anything then because I had a young daughter.
Okay.
But I'll say about 86 when I returned to Milwaukee and I started seeing it, just like they say, I say the ill skin suits, everything was pulling up in Milwaukee, sunny on Broadway, and it was like the vapors, what's going on here?
Yeah. That's cool. Now, one thing I do notice about you is you dress very hip hop with the Adidas suits.
Right.
So how long have you been dressing like that?
Look, since my kids got grown and I was able to afford it.
Okay.
I was like, now I'm gonna go get what I've been wanting to wear. So I'll say probably the last 7 years, maybe. And now sometimes I do put on other stuff, but I try to represent, the hip hop museum. Sometimes I'll give me some FABU and people like, they still wearing FABU. I'm wearing FABU. There's some FABU behind me. I got some FABU jewelry here for sale. So, you go back to what you remember that was great at the time. A lot of people don't know the history of FABU. Brother brought that out. LL Cool J wore the hat and the FABU shirt and bam, free advertisement. So that's what started me really on the Adidas, I think. I'm like they did when they was wearing the shoes. I was just like, I'm just going to associate this with my hip hop and promote it,
And it's very much, understood because, people were wearing Adidas before hip hop exploded.
Right.
But it wasn't until hip hop kind of became recognized and Run DMC was really responsible for making Adidas just excel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And that's another story because like FABU was good, but it wasn't until LL came out in the Gap commercial with the hat. And that was like free advertising. You can't get away with that now. So he put them on the map,
Yeah, for sure. And and there's several other companies that went on to do great things, in connection with hip hop. And I think that's the kind of cool thing about hip hop is I was just looking at an interview or a little segment of KRS-One talking about he was talking about the boots,
Timberlands. I got them on too with the suits. I'm still on the Timberlands.
And what I thought was interesting though is he said Timbs were basically work boots.
Boots.
You mostly seen people with those boots on that was working construction or some type of work where you need to protect your feet when you're out there in the field or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he said, but it wasn't until hip hop came along.
Yeah, them famous.
People started, putting the value of the boot went up because of the mindset. Yeah. And I thought and now not only were they just a work boot, but they became a fashion boot.
Stylish, because we brought that style to him for real. And I saw his interview, and that's for real. They weren't that expensive back in the day. We started wearing them until Notorious Big and them started wearing them in their videos, which is again today they're gonna have on their Timberlands. That's why they are able to tax like they do.
So it's you know, we could go on and on, you know, about it, but hip hop has a lot of avenues and variables and lanes in life. You know, and people need to understand that you know, sometimes people say they disconnect the elements, but you can't really do that, because it's almost like your body. Like you can't say, I don't want this arm today, and then think you could throw it away over there and don't be bothered with it. No, it's attached to the rest of your body.
Exactly.
You know? So you really can't do anything without the other part of your body. You know, it's all one. You know, it's movable. They're individual parts of your body that make up a whole. And that's kind of how I like to view hip hop. It has its own individual parts, but it still makes up a whole. You know. So, you know, you got people that say, hey, you know, I'm a rapper, but I'm not into hip hop. Okay, well, you know, you need to go back to do your homework, because, you know, so you something you ain't doing right here.
Right. Because what I'm still learning too, artistic, is it's still a learning. And I see you doing the dance and everything. I'm like, well, I kind of put my dancing shoes down a while back, but because I work with the children, you know, and what I see in the school, they have to, I don't care what anybody say. And I was brought up, you have to know your history. If you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. So I may not go back to Africa, but when I went to Ripley and Henny, you know, they told me everything they could tell me. You know, they took me to the grave. They did this, they did that. You know, my family's related to Alex Haley for real. And, you know, we were absorbed the history, if nothing else. So whatever we went through, whether it was drugs or alcohol, we were able to come back, because we still had, it's like the church in you. Sometimes I go, okay, about the church, but we were still able to find our way back, because it was still up in our head. Like the Martin Luther King 60 era, hip hop was still, the positive conscious part was still rolling in the back of our brains until we came out of whatever we was in. And that goes for all my siblings. I think we rolled into something in the 30s, you know, and we stayed there for a minute, but you know, that history kicked in, you know, the voices kicked in, and okay, let's, enough with this, you know, let's get it cracking here. Yeah.
But you know, I think also too, people have to understand, when you talk about hip hop, it's not just about rapping. It's not just about, some people look at it as just entertainment. It does encompass that, but hip hop, when you say hip hop and we talk about hip hop, the culture, that means we're talking about a way of life.
Right.
So that the way you live, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you dress, you know what I'm saying? Everything. So it's an entire way of living, you know? So you have to take that into consideration, why it has so many avenues to it, so many pathways to make it so unique within itself, you know, as a movement. And once you understand that, then you can be like, and then it's all the ingredients of it all is all about being creative.
Exactly.
You know, like hip hop is a creative movement. It's not something that is dull and boring. You know, it's all about being creative. So, you know, and then another gentleman told me, he said, hip hop is about motion. You know, so in other words, you don't just see someone that's into hip hop that's standing still. Usually you see somebody that's doing something. You know, if they rapping, they, you know, or if they painting, or if they're dancing, you know, if they're DJing, any of those elements, they're in motion. You know, so even entrepreneurs nowadays, you know, that's another element of hip hop. You know, people are starting businesses, like you said, FUBU, and you know, Russell Simmons started a company called Fat Farm back in the 90s.
Exactly.
So you know, it just goes on and on and on. But again, it is a movement. You have to. My guy he said you ain't hip if you ain't hopping.
Right.
You know. So they go together.
Right. And I feel that those of us, because I could be older than you for all I know, but it's just like before us, it's for us to share what we know But I'm trying to also get into connecting with the kids on what they're speaking of, because back in the day they started with nothing, and I'm still learning that too. They showing how they left New York for dead, like they did Katrina. Like if they leave Milwaukee, we're gonna be dead too if we don't keep it moving, like they did us back in slavery. So it's another movement, like you said, but we keep it moving regardless. When they take everything from us, those you came back, buildings down in the background, and did what? The message. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You look in the back, what's behind it, what they're talking about. They brought it to the forefront, and now still trying to take that from Black folks and get the credit for that. No, this started from there. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it as another vehicle for the youth now, because we have to find something to reach them. I work in the school, and some days I be like, I'm gonna say something to the kid. Some days I'm like, I ain't gonna say nothing, because they come up on you. But we can't give up on them, because they still our future. We can't just say, oh, these kids are crazy, we're gonna leave them alone. We gotta reach them like they reached me. You know what I'm saying? And I told tell my mother these days, well, she used to say, Antonia, pray. And I said, Mom, I can't pray. But it's their prayers that brought us back. Yes, you can. You know what I'm saying? So we can't give up on the youth either. And hip hop is a good form to reach them. I see you dance with them babies, and I'm like, okay, I put my little dance and slippers down. But I've never been like you to break dance and stuff. But that's good, because they've taken so much art out of the schools. It's pathetic. Yeah. And if we don't bring it in, how they gonna get it? To me, it's another systematically set up. We have to bring the kids to arts. That's what got me too. Back in the ghetto, when my parents got divorced, my mother put us in the art class. I kept my kids in some form of art. And hip hop is creativity. It's all kind of things. Like you said, it's a culture.
And I think it's important because now, mind you, a lot of the dance moves that I used to do when I was younger, I can't do anymore. I'm gonna just keep it real. It's a lot of stuff that I can't do like I used to.
Right.
But I can teach it. And to me, it's kind of like, I look at anything that you've done before, even if you can't do it as good as you used to, you know the aesthetics of how to teach it to somebody else.
Exactly.
So now these young kids, they're flexible, they're young, they're full of energy. I can just instruct them and watch them and help train them in their bodies to do what I know and envision, because I know how I used to do it myself.
Right.
And then, but I may not necessarily be able to do what I used to do, but like I say, and when I see them, I say, hey, you know what? We learned a lot of the stuff coming up as youngsters by watching TV and just trial and error. A lot of us didn't have trainers to teach like you have today.
Right.
We didn't have the YouTube. We didn't have no internet. All we had was our eyes.
Right.
We had television, but when you see something on television, for many of us back then, we didn't have something that we could record it so that we could watch it again.
We had to. So we had to take it in. The cartoons, even what they were saying, we were taking it in. We still, okay, what did it say? We still come back to us.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's repetitive. And now, they don't make that kind of stuff for it to be repetitive. If I talk to any of my siblings, even my younger ones, they'll go back. You remember that cartoon? You remember who? You remember Sesame Street? Because our babysitters didn't get up and say, let's do this. We was all sitting on the couch like this till mama came, watching Sesame Street. It's a few more I can't remember right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but we were sitting on that couch. We wasn't doing nothing. Y'all sit right there till y'all mama come. It'd be an hour. We sitting right there watching TV. But we were learning too. But it wasn't any physical, nurturing activities. We learned it right off that set. We was taking it off
TV. And see, that's another thing. Again, like I said, hip hop is about motion. So like I tell the young people today, I say, we didn't have hip hop was not being taught in schools when I was coming up. Right. There was no such thing. So in other words, everything that we did in hip hop in my younger days, we did it without permission, should I say? In other words, like when I was in grammar school, I was heavily into breakdancing. So, but it wasn't being taught at our school.
Right.
So, And the way we got away with doing it is we would sneak to the bathroom, you know, we would go in the hallway and we would dance, you know. Now we were not supposed to do that, you know, and a lot of times when we would come back to the class, the teacher would be like, why is all that dust on the back of your sweater? You know, because we was in the hallway dancing, you know. So, you know, but today it's being taught in schools, you know, it's you can go online and learn how to do stuff, you know.
Right.
So, and not just with the dance, but with all the elements.
Yes.
So I think it's a variety of ways that you can enjoy yourself as a youngster coming up today. And you don't have to necessarily get into the violent aspects of it, because hip hop do come with some of the rough and rugged sides where people are, you know, getting into all type of trouble and everything. But, you know, and that's where I think people like you and I come in, because again, hip hop people don't understand hip hop is supposed to be about having fun. You know? It ain't supposed to be about killing nobody.
Right. And I think too, like I do see a lot of the creators, the cultivators, which, you know what, yep, y'all brought attention to the world, but you know, we still can't sit on it. We gotta teach, you know, we gotta share more with the youth, you know, because if not, we're like the aunties. Well, we used to go over at their house. I don't know if y'all had this, but it was like, y'all can go in the basement. Don't say this, don't do this, don't touch this. So we all down there like, what do they expect us to do? Why are we here? You know, share. You know, let's not sit around like kids. I did this, I did that, I brought this in. And that is so wonderful because they are so correct. But bring it to the youth, because, you know, at the end of the day, some of that is why they're lost. You know, when I went to school too, I was bored and I stayed about time to go. You know, they bored. They sit in the classes we wouldn't sit in. You know what I'm saying? I'm not listening to nobody for no 2 hours talking about nothing. Get them kids moving and active. They're not listening to you. They're not listening to me.
Yeah, young people need to have something that's going to not only massage their brain and stimulate their minds, but they got to actually have some physical activity. You know, like reading a book is good for your mind, to stimulate your mind, your brain, but it's not going to do anything else for your body.
Right.
You know, so you got to do something else for a young person. It's good to stimulate their brain and their minds, but you got, like, coming up in Chicago, black girls jump rope.
Right.
Okay. They did the hopscotch. They did, you know, and the boys, we played baseball, we played football, we you know what I'm saying? You know, we rode our bikes. You know what I'm saying? You know, we played video games, you know. So we had stuff that took, not it massaged our minds, but it also helped us physically, you know.
Keep moving.
You know, I remember all the time playing sports in the streets, in the middle of the streets, you know, football, baseball, you know, some guys were good at basketball, you know. We did it all, you know, like, okay, you know, this is we got to do something that's fun. And then, and whenever we got, even when biking was probably my most favorite hobby as a young person. Getting on the bike and riding, not just around the block, but we used to ride around neighborhoods. Right. You know? Right. And sometimes we would get lost. Right. You know. Right. But that was fun. That was big time fun. You know.
You were getting your exercise in.
Now, how many times do you see a black girl jumping rope today?
I'm in the school and I don't see them. I see them playing basketball. I see them sometimes running track. Yeah. But no, I don't see any jump ropes.
Yeah.
And again, that's what we grew up on, jump ropes. Even if we was outside playing jacks, we were moving our hands. Yeah. Now they do just have, and I got grandkids, they just sit there all day like this. And I'm like, that's probably taking more away from them than it's giving them. Messing up your hands, messing up your eyes. But again, you know, it's just some things that we as the dog, okay, you may not want to jump all day, but can I get you to jump 10 minutes? They might find out.
Yeah.
Exercise. Hula hoop.
Yes.
Going up and down the stairs, moving.
Hula hoop. And look, for me in the 70s, I was a skateboarder. I used to get on a skateboard and ride the skateboard, you know.
And skating, going to the skate palace.
Yep.
Here in Milwaukee, they moved it to the other side of town. It's not in the north side. Yeah. And y'all, you know, some of this y'all wonder why they're acting crazy. It's nothing to do unless they go where they have to and I'm not saying have to, because I don't believe in stealing cars, because now it's turning deadly. Back in my day, we called it joyriding.
Right.
We didn't
Right.
ask where you get this car. We trying to get to the other side of town, drop us off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's definitely people got to get back to giving kids. Like I used to remember just walking through the neighborhoods and seeing the guys at the park play basketball. Now you go through multiple parks and you don't see nobody playing basketball. And if you do, it's very few.
right,
Very few. I mean, it used to be the basketball court used to be packed with
right,
guys playing basketball.
right,
And I
right.
remember, like I say, like the jump roping. Girls was doing that in every neighborhood.
Staying in
know,
shape, ready to
yeah,
run if they have to
yeah,
take off, ready to do whatever they have to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
know, I
even with
mean,
the summer parks like they had with the DJs and the break dancers, everyone here in Milwaukee, they used to have where you can go not too far from where I live in Mays, and then we'll come for a concert in the park. People would come for free concerts. And we
yeah.
would be up there seeing them for free until they got wise and started, sending us to the white people place. Well, now we got to pay for these tickets to Riverside. But I remember they used to be free on 3rd and Burleigh here. They would actually come, like Gat Band, all of them.
Yeah. And then we had amusement parks here in Chicago where we would go. We had some permanent ones, and then we had the ones that were temporary that would come and be there for a couple of days or whatever, and then it would move. But those amusement parks was another thing full of activities. All type of stuff that for young people. But it's hard to come by those things nowadays. And then I remember when Great America became popular.
Exactly.
We had to go to Great America at least once a year.
Exactly. But again, that's if the average family can afford to gas up and go there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think too, it's really a mind state too. Because you see a lot of people that say they ain't got money, but you smoking cigarettes, you smoking all those cigarettes, you drinking all those drinks. I see you paying money for that.
Right.
Okay,
right.
so you just got to prioritize things in your life that you can order or nicely put in order and manage your money properly.
Exactly.
I mean, because you're gonna make sure if you're a smoker, you're gonna make sure you get your smokes.
Yeah, the liquor don't
exactly.
Get the chicken.
Yeah, so it's really what is it that you want to do. And I mean, there's a whole lot of things out here in the world today for people to do.
Because my mom was a single mom and she found all kind of art programs for us to go. And we was like, we don't want to go on Saturday morning. We want to hang out with the neighborhood kids. She's like, no, y'all going, So,
yeah. So let's talk about some of your artifacts. Like, what have you gotten into your museum lately that's new?
Well, everything behind me.
Okay.
Look, and that's why I got here, because it's like, with the cameras and all of that, it's hard to move. So I have a lot of action figures behind me. I recently got. I got a Pac-Man machine here that I recently got. And really, I'll tell the truth. In a minute, I'm probably going to be over here like with some older people, like in the lounge or something at night. Because, you know how it is with tours. Yeah. You got to kind of beat people in the head. Because like you said, they're going to go out to the clubs where they got to run, which back in my day, I want to know, well, where is it safe? Sometimes I go out to network, but I'm still watching the door and how do I get out? But I got a lot of goodies up in here, and of course it's Black History Month, so I'm gonna try to get as many children if I can. If not, I'm gonna be looking for like DJs and stuff, and I'm really excited for the 50th, coming up on the 50th year. So I'm coming up with ideas and I'm reaching out to people in Milwaukee, which I will say this, you're in Chicago and you might know more people. I'm looking on your Facebook page, like you go way back. I'm a newcomer in all of this. I got a museum, now I got to make the connections. I know a few people here in hip hop. Yes. So I got to get them to say, hey, come on, y'all, let's do us. Like you said, rep your city, people.
There you
No,
go.
I
There
got
you
some
go.
from New York, but can somebody bring me some things from Milwaukee? I've got some brothers that brought me some things from Milwaukee, and those names I throw out a few: Jay Billa, King Kamanzi. Who else did I get? Lamont Crab, who's a big hip hop person way back in the day. And it's just like, why wouldn't you want to rep your city? Because I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you something in a minute. Y'all know we can pack up and go somewhere else. I'm just trying to bring some positivity to Milwaukee. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
eventually I want to be on the move with it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go down to Henning, Ripley, where my people are.
Mm-hmm.
They're still like behind. I love them. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
come on into the new world.
Yeah.
But as far as my new action figures, I don't know. Can you see them?
Yes, I can.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, and I don't want to touch on everything, get to falling, because yep, I got these crates, all these crates fall up. This is like my recent one. Now
Okay.
I'm going to give me a LL. This is
That's
his
the Panther, right?
Panther. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm looking for LL, and LLs came out a while back, so not
Yeah.
too many people are partnering with LL himself. They need
Okay.
to come out with some, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like, you can see the other ones. I got the one on the top is Suge Knight. Snoop Dogg. Snoop is sitting there with all of his stuff sitting there as usual. He is firing up, and I mean his stuff is sitting on the thing. He repped it. I got Eminem up on the top, DMX, the Break Dancers, Run DMC Christmas, Lil Wayne. Over here I have Rakim, the microphone fiend, NAA, and down here are like some Funko Pops, Notorious Big, Ice Cube, and then also, like I said, I have some Fabu jewelry, like the earrings and some necklaces, and I even got the wrap snacks from Master P. Got a couple of
Nice.
those. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
and some of these are dead soldiers. I got
Okay. Okay.
I got
Okay.
a restock on Snoop Dogg. It's pretty good.
So
But
you buy items for the museum pretty regularly, right?
yes, and I'm gonna start nonprofit. I'm in the classes now so I can understand the dynamics of the paperwork.
Okay.
Cause yeah, this come out of my NPS check. So yeah, in a minute I want to be 501c and getting
Okay.
in donations. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
again, it's just something I think history is like the civil rights movement. This is the new from the civil rights movement. We got to educate our kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the other
Yeah.
kids, I think they got school books and stuff, but we have to educate our kids. I'm not sitting here trying to wait for, well, why didn't I teach my kids this? Why didn't I? We teach them ourselves. Why y'all trying to make somebody else teach your children that never want to teach your children? What's
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thinking? That's what I be thinking. They never want us to get education. So why you mad if they're not trying to bring us education? That's all I'm saying. My
Yeah.
mom was at home reading poems and singing and all of that. So we have to bring that to our own kids, to our own youth.
And hip hop now it has been around long enough now to provide careers. So I've been approached from institutions to develop curriculums now to
Hmm.
teach
Hmm.
careers in hip hop.
Okay.
So because again, I'm an entrepreneur myself, so
Hmm.
I can teach it to someone else. It's
Hmm.
like, hey, back in the days, when people, when fashion was big, when airbrushing was big,
Hmm.
I used to paint on people's
Hmm.
clothes, and they would pay me to airbrush their shirt, their
Hmm.
jacket, their cap, whatever. And that
Okay.
was a form of entrepreneurship right then, and
Hmm.
I didn't even know it at the time.
Hmm.
I
That you were
started.
able to have your own business back then when you worked with somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
when I was doing it on my clothes in the very beginning, I
Hmm.
did it just for myself. But
Right.
then I would go to school and people like, where you get that from? I'm like,
Hmm.
I painted it. And then they'd be like,
Hmm.
really? It's like, man, that's nice. Hey, if I give you some pants, could you paint mine? I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, and they're like, man, I'll pay you for it. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, cool. You're gonna pay me to do what I know how to do? Like, really?
Hmm.
Okay. So,
Hmm.
and that's all a form of entrepreneurship.
Right.
It's
Right.
just it's creating something from nothing.
That's where hip
So
hop came from.
Exactly.
And not only that, but not only are you going to be the entrepreneur, but you're going to teach all these kids that they don't have to be waiting, excuse me, for the man to get them a job. Because when they don't get a job, what they going to do? Go out here and start taking stuff. Well, you can do this yourself.
And
You
see
know, like
now,
in the 60s and 70s, what James Brown said, you can do it yourself, man. You could think yourself. We have to let our kids know. Right now, if you want to go to college, go. But I don't know about you, but I still owe about $80,000. And I wish I would have just stepped with what I like to do best. Not to say I need education,
mhm,
but sometimes, you know, get education and your entrepreneurship and, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, and there's so many avenues today. Like, I know YouTubers that's out there making crazy money, and all they
Crazy.
do is make videos and post them up online. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a job.
And they're young kids.
Yeah.
And they're young kids, and they
Yeah.
figured out like our parents. My parents came. My dad worked at A.O. Smith. My mother worked at the Milwaukee County, whatever. You know, all of their life until they got the retirement check, and now, of course, you know, they got to go to the doctor. Now they don't have to live like we live. We don't have to say you got to go work and
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can start something now. You can sell
Yeah.
ice cream cone. You can sell lemonade. Start when
Yeah.
you're 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when we were dancing back in the day, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize at the time that people would be willing to give us money to see us dance.
Mm-hmm.
But when we would get
Mm-hmm.
out there, we would form a crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and then we was like, hey, let's put this bucket out here and see if somebody give us some money. And
Right.
we put the bucket out there, we do our little thing, and then
Right.
we look over in the bucket like, wow, they putting money in the bucket,
Exactly. Right. And now where they
and,
at now? Cash at
and-
my birthday. Cash at my rent.
yeah,
Cash
yeah,
at my
yeah,
electricity. And we
yeah.
still working like, let me go get this money for the electric bill. They just cash app it.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
got
yeah,
smart, you know.
yeah, yeah. So it's just really in how you do what you do. So let me
Right.
ask you, what is like if someone wanted to come check out the museum, what do they have to do?
I just asked for at least like 24-hour notice because it is in my living space.
Hmm.
So I don't want anybody knocking on the door thinking they're getting in because even when they contact me, I do a little bit of checking out. Is this person who they is? You know, with Facebook and stuff, you could check who they are. And I know at one time somebody did, and I didn't get right back with them. I saw, and she like, you didn't get back with me. Your message seemed a little strange. So hey, I checked it out. You're the only person I didn't get back with because you just seemed a bit strange. But once they just either email me or text me on my website, I get back with them right away. But yes, I am going to check out, and that's anywhere I go, who
Yeah,
you are,
yeah.
check you out to make sure,
Okay.
But
Now, do you have certain days that you're available, or what is your schedule for the museum tours?
I would prefer Saturdays and Sundays, but if it's somebody like, well, I want to come in the evening between maybe 3, 6, or 7, I would do that because I'm home in the evening. But again, don't call the same day. Give me
Mm.
24-hour notice and you're in. It's Black History Month, even though I'm 365 Black History, because my museum is up all throughout the year. It's been up since 2019. Just that, that time. But
Mhm.
I know we all get a little happier during February because, that's when people tend to come out more. Oh, it's Black History Month. Oh, it's Black History
Mhm.
Month. Black History is every single day. So
Yes.
for February, once again, give me that 24-hour notice and you come on in, Yeah.
Okay. Now, is this your website? I posted this. I put this up to show the viewers. Is that Milwaukee Hip
Yeah.
Hop Pop Up?
Popup.com. Yes, sir.
Okay. So there
Yes,
you
sir.
have it, everyone. If you like to check out Antonia's 365 Hip Hop Museum, you can definitely go here to the website, and
Mhm.
you know that you have all your information on there and everything, and then they can reach out to you to plan a trip to come visit. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
So are you doing anything special in regard to this month since it's Black History at the museum?
Yeah, so I have a few exhibits that I got, and this one is not exactly like hip hop, but when I went recently, I have a daughter that's in Nashville, and she attended Tennessee State, my youngest daughter. And me and one of my other daughters, I have 4 daughters, we drove down there, and like I'm a Tina Turner, and you know Tina Turner's from Nutbush. And whenever we go down there, I'll be like, well, where is Nutbush? And they finally like, you keep riding by it. So it's so small, you keep riding by it, cousin. You've been riding by it. But my daughter broke out singing Nutbush City Limits. And I'm like, I'm gonna get Tina Turner. Because again, you know, look where she came from, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a Tina Turner event. I got the dial, I got some articles, I have some things on Tina Turner, the albums, stories, paperwork. Yeah, because I want to share Tina Turner's story. Because she came from someplace that even I was driving by all my days going to Tennessee to be in the Hall of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she went through a lot. You know, she had a lot of stories, domestic violence, but I'm sure they had a good time. But I'm just saying from where she came from, that Dust Road. But that's one of them. But I also have like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X here. I have dolls, action figures that I pulled out. But I pulled out a lot more stuff during Black History Month. Because really, I didn't just start with hip hop. Before I got to hip hop, I have like 1920s. I have Marian Anderson, Bessie Smith, Ma Mabels, you know, jazz players, Louis Armstrong. I started with that and got to hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Because I know hip hop just didn't get to hip hop. You started
right.
So I have a lot of that here too. So
that's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any favorite items in your museum that you like to talk about in specific?
Then there's one I could read, because when people ask that, I'm like, I done got so crazy with it till it's like, what is it? There's no favorite item no more. Right now I'm just stuck kind of on getting all the action figures, because how certain ones, once they sell out, you're not getting them no more.
Okay.
Now this one came out a while back.
Okay.
Can you see this?
Now which one is that?
This one is Wu-Tang.
Oh, that's Wu-Tang. Okay.
Yeah, and it's actually a chess game. Now this one's not open. I'm the person too that sometimes I get one open that people can play with. So I didn't know when I be researching stuff that they actually have a chess game. And my son plays chess, and he hasn't showed Mama yet. Because you know what they say about chess. You learn how to play chess. Chess ain't checkers. You can run the world playing chess.
Yeah. Exercise that mind.
Yeah. You got to learn how to move around. I would say Rakim, and really Grandmaster Flash. I love him, but some reason he ain't that expensive. The Blastmaster, he $200 out the gate.
Wow.
I just got this too, and this is the one, because I was searching for this for a minute.
Which one?
Show you this one. I would say this is my favorite. Please don't let my crates fall out on me. I was looking for Slick Rick's children book.
Okay.
Now, I ain't gonna open this, but this one has the 4/5, the CD, and the actual children's story.
That's nice.
So that's another one I fell in love with back in the day, and I seen that to my boys when they was getting in trouble. The Slick Rick,
Nice.
So yeah, I would say this is my favorite. It's unopened.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's like a box set, right?
What? I didn't know he actually had a children's story book. I knew he had the vinyl album, the cassette, which I have that, but this is the book. Now, if I find it open, I'm gonna be so happy to read it, but you know how it is. We're not gonna open it.
Is that your only copy of it?
Yeah, and I recently got it. Recently.
Oh, wow.
These are real rare to find.
Okay.
And it wasn't as expensive as it could have been, because some people were asking some hundreds. Then I seen another one and I didn't get it, which I probably should have got it too. But yeah, I would say that's my favorite children's story. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever thought about some of these artifacts that you have, such as the one you just showed with Slick Rick? Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about reaching out to these artists to invite them to see your museum with their art?
What? I thought about it, but I haven't yet. And that's why I was telling you about the brother, and I turned my phone off, that had the one-on-one museum, and he travels to colleges and he takes his things on the road. So I'm gonna get with him because he know, like, and Shay Rock is with him too, which also have some of her records and books. And I'm taking my book, like you said, it was gonna be signed when you sent it to me, but it wasn't. Can you sign it, please? It's been 2 years. So yes, I do. I reached out to a couple of people that sent me their autographs, but I got to get better with that too. They sent it to me. Ernie, I always get his name, not too good. The one that took all the hip hop.
Oh yeah, the
Ernie,
photographer.
help me say his last name.
I think it's
took all the hip hop.
Yes.
He saw something on my Facebook where I had took a picture of the book, and my Facebook friend, and he said, "Do you have my books?" And I took a picture. I have both of your books, and he said, "Okay." So he sent me some things, and the other brother, he sent me some things too. And I'm running low because it's Friday. Mean Machine Shit.
Okay.
The disco person version, the first Latin disco person. Sugar Ray, Sugar Hill. I'm sorry, Sugar Hill record.
Yes.
Yeah, he sent me his signature too to go with my album. So they signed something, send it in the mail. That's something else, when you work, you got to find time to reach out to people. But those are some things that I got down, and I'm gonna try to find some people that could help me, like some maybe young, not entrepreneurs so much, interns. So when I'm not thinking they could do it, because you get older, you can't think everything. But those are the things to come. And I love your podcast. And that's something else that I want to do. I'm just getting used to, speaking. I'm a little shy. And I seem like it was a little shy when it comes to the camera. So I want a podcast. And I want to interview some Milwaukee folks like you do and have, share the story. Get it out here.
Yeah, that's what it's, and the reason why I asked, because Slick Rick was here in Chicago last year. Wow. So he was here, Dougie Fresh was here, and and I've been knowing them guys for years, so
but you just gotta tell me when they're there, and I might jump on that bus. I don't know if I could drive this traffic. I might have an accident trying to get on that train or that bus and come there. If I can get there before they leave, I will. Back in the day, they came to Milwaukee. They used to come to Milwaukee in the end of the 80s. But I found this story out too. Tupac came through here and started something, and no more rappers was able to come because he did, said something in the crowd about a killing, and they tore the place down. And for a while, a lot of rappers weren't able to come here. But there's some pictures of them too that I saw on eBay that I'm gonna get. That Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick was here, Jaleel from Houdini. Yeah.
Nice. That's nice. Right. Yeah, that would be great because your museum has a lot of the architect artists, like one of my favorite groups is Run DMC. So when I came and seen your museum and you had that section on Run DMC, I was just like, yes.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And a lot of people say, I'm gonna tell you what I wish I can get. And you come up here, don't bring no paintbrush. Because I've reached out to some graffiti artists, but again, sometimes you reach out and they don't reach back. Because like where I live, I got to be careful how I paint it. But I'm connecting with, it's a lot of graffiti history here in Milwaukee, which I didn't know about. And I spoke to some folks with the Nation of Islam here in Milwaukee, and it was like, you didn't know about that? And I was like, no, because I haven't met those people. So I'm in the process, but it's a matter of sometimes them reaching back. They be kind of slow. They be slow. They be slow. Like, get back with me. Yeah. Because I do want them to maybe do a few of these walls.
Yeah. And then like you say, right now you're doing a lot of this work yourself.
Right.
So,
I've done it all myself.
Yeah.
I've had some donors, like I said, that have donated some nice things to me, but the majority of them I'm doing myself. That's why I reached out definitely to the Nation of Islam, because I didn't know too. They're the ones that really started, the hip hop, getting these brothers to talk. A lot of them were with them to get them to even start, not just like Muhammad Ali and them, they actually went to these brothers, and these brothers have a history with them. Yeah. So I'm like, y'all come on, work with me too,
Yeah. I mean, we had Chuck D here recently too, Chuck D was here. He was here because, Chuck D is still political. And, we had a chapter of the Black Panthers here in Chicago. So yeah, so Chuck was here. He was here in regard to that. They had a speaking engagement here in Chicago, and he was a part of the panel discussion on that.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, it's really like you said, it's just a timing thing, you know.
Because the buck stops, they really don't come to Milwaukee. Let's just go on and say that the buck stops in Chicago. Okay, they're not breaking their neck to get here. I ain't mad at them. You know, we're going to come a little farther to Green Bay and Chicago. Right now, Milwaukee. You know, they ain't trying to come around here, but I would do the stretch to come and see him. Yeah.
Well, you definitely
his the 50 years of hip hop that episode. Yeah. And I know they have it where they're getting ready to have a streaming. I saw that on your Facebook page, so I signed up for that, and I got some postcards they're gonna get. I can't afford that $500 thing where he's got a book of doodling in his art.
Yeah. It's so much. It's so much. Too. You know, it's so much going on. You know, I'm excited and looking forward to the museum opening up in New York next year.
Me too. I'm going definitely.
But you know, they're already celebrating for this year, doing a lot of activities. You know, LL Cool J got a boat cruise coming up in November.
I've seen it. I missed that. It's a waiting list now.
Yeah. So it's all
for the high rollers.
Yeah.
That's the high rollers. You gotta get the high rollers, you know.
Look, that's the rich hip hoppers.
Right. That's for the high rollers. Y'all know we're talking about the high rollers. You know? Yeah. That's cool. Well, is there anything that you would like to share that we haven't talked about already in regard to the museum or just hip hop in general? Well, again, I just want to expand on if we can use this as a tool to help our youth, because I be looking at them like, I don't know what to say. I work in the school, like, I don't know what to say. They might give me a fat lip, but we just can't stop, you know, because I've always worked with youth. I used to work in St. Charles where they locked them up. So back then I was like, don't mess with me. But now I be tipping in there like, shoot, I'm kind of came to this school and I feel like a, PUNK. These kids ain't no joke. They don't do you now. Their parents up here. Now you be like, okay, so we got to do something different to reach them is what I'm saying. Because really it didn't reach me the education way. I was leaving school too. So if it's not working, we have to do something different. And I really know and believe that hip hop is the source. Because even back in the day when I got caught up in some things that brought me back, it's like the history of the 60s, like I said. It was the new come on back. Back in slavery when they were singing them songs, they come on back. Now you got it in there, bring it back. So I would just say let's use that to encourage our youth, because it's not just Milwaukee. It's a lot of places where they think, oh, they're out of control. We gotta bring them back. People brought us back. They brought me back. Yeah. I've been brought back from the dead, from the dead. So we just got to stick with them and not give up on them.
I think about just in harmony with what you just said. I think about the dynasty and legacy that Don Cornelius created with young people with Soul Train. And, when you think back, that show was dedicated to young people, really. I mean, even though he went on to get superstars on the show, but the dancers are really were the highlight of the show, and all of those were young people, and a lot of them went on to develop careers from becoming first participating on Soul Train,
Exactly.
BET has a thing right now that they're doing where they're interviewing some of the Soul Train dancers, and they're putting it on in video format where you can go on and look at the history of some of these dancers.
Wow.
And it's very interesting. We just had one of the dancers come visit us. Her name is Juliet. Yeah. And she was a dancer in the 80s, but she's one of the people that helped BET connect with the dancers. And then and then they do the interview and they record it and edit it and put it together. So, but it's interesting because now, these dancers are, up in age in their 60s and their 70s. And, they talk about back when they were 16, 17, trying to sneak. Some of them was trying to sneak on the set to get into Soul Train.
I believe it. Hours and days, we don't know. Just like Barry Gordy. You know, these people started with nothing. And some people say, like even Sylvia Robinson, okay, these people probably didn't do it right. They probably didn't do everything right, but they still set it off. You know what I'm
They
saying?
set it up.
Barry
That's what's
Gordon
up.
set it off back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? He set it off.
And now he has a legacy to last forever.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, everybody said that Don Cornelius wasn't the friendliest person, but I bet you it's not one person that can't talk about Soul Train if they were alive during that time.
Right. Right. You know, when they put it on Soul Train, people doing what? Soul Train.
Yeah.
Soul Train line, you know.
And I think overall it was because we could relate as Black people when we seen ourselves on TV. You know,
that was the first time we were seeing ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I do tell people this. I just took a display up to my school, even though I've been there a while. They finally had some empty cabinets. I'm like, can I use those? But like now, when I was younger, I didn't have a Black Barbie. Recently, I got Tina Turner, I got Rosa Parks, I got Ella Fitzgerald.
That's
Can't
good.
pull down the rush yet. Maya Angelou.
That's good.
Bessie Smith,
That's
Florence, is it Henderson? Florence.
Yeah, yeah.
Henderson. Yeah, I got her, and then you can't see these, so I'm gonna pick this one up. I like these. I got a whole bunch of these. These were out in the 1990s too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and the other ones, the African ones on the other side of the room, I probably won't go get these, but I saw these and I'm like, I gotta get all of those. So I didn't have Black jobs when I grew up.
No,
you know,
no,
they start representing us into those shows. So it's just really important that we are represented. Before I forget, like now I see Carol Burnett on. You know, when they talked about us when I was growing up, it was the Tarzan. Like we were from younger.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, even in the movie Claudine. We was all on welfare. They had to sneak the man in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was living in those times. I could relate to that because my mother went to the welfare one day trying to change her code, and she was like, "Forget this." You know, they was on them like that. They were really like that. So
yeah. I mean, you know, we have definitely come. You know, just when you think about the success or the rise of Black people, again, you know, we've come a long way. You know, in terms of, you know, because, you know, like you say, when you used to watch TV back in those days, you know, when you seen a Black face on television, it wasn't like, it was very few that was would be considered elite, like Lena Horne or Sidney Poitier. You know, when you seen a film that had majority of the white cast in it, you know, and you seen those actors, you like, wow. You know what I'm saying?
Ruby Dee and Alta Davis.
There you go. And then now on the other hand, when you did see some Black people in there, most of it was they a butler or they the cook or you know low end characters.
Right.
You know like they're the maid. You know. So you know, and that could do something to your mind conditionally.
Right.
You know,
and that's what they were doing deliberately. And like movies like Hell Up in Harlem, even though they were changing and we were seeing her, his mama was a maid. Right. So he was out there doing what he had to do to get his mama from doing that. And they still were, mama still was what? In the church thing, like, no, son, I ain't taking this money the way you got it. But my grandmother was a maid when I came. So I'm saying these experiences are still here. Some people think, oh, it wasn't that long ago. My grandmother was a maid. My mother picked cotton. And so did my uncles and that. My mother picked cotton. Okay. So it's not that long from there. But yeah, hip hop is it's the movement.
Yeah. Well, I want to just say, continue to keep up the great work. I look forward to you visiting.
You as well. You're doing a good job. I like when you got this thing launched.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you know, we hope to have you here in Chicago soon.
I'm coming.
And you know, we're gonna have a good time when you come.
Yeah.
You know, so just keep me posted when you planning on coming. And
Definitely.
you know, again, you know, hey, you know, welcome to the game of hip hop. I mean, like you said, we got to focus on these young people.
Right.
You got to continue to focus on that, and just keep doing the good work, because it's definitely great things happening, and young people need to see positivity going on with hip hop today.
Right. And you know what? We used to go to Chicago Museum. In the future, you could bring some kids here, and I can figure out how to get some kids to your museum. We're going to step out the box. Because we used to do that. We used to go to the Chicago Museum. I can't think of it, the Du Bois Museum. They used to take us to the museum every now and then. So we can, we can think of that down the road. Bring some kids here.
And that's actually what we're working on too. We're trying to work with a lot of the local schools here, elementary schools and high schools.
Okay.
And you put them on our roster list to get them. We've had a couple schools, but we need to do it more often.
Exactly.
And then the other thing we're going to try to launch this summer is we want to do an actual city tour. So we want to actually have them come to the museum and do a tour of the museum, but then we want to go on location to take them to certain sites in Chicago to help them to see, hey, this is where we had parties at, this is where we had meetings at, blah 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 blah. So it's in the works.
Yeah, because again, that's what they're doing in New York.
Yes,
is taking them on tour too, right?
Yeah. Like New York, like that's where it all started. So if you go to New York, you have to go check out the rest of the city, because the rest of the city is the first museum. You know what I'm saying? That was the museum before the museum.
Exactly, the real museum.
Yeah. Look, when you seen graffiti writers paint their names on the train, and then the train rolls by with all this artwork on it, that was like a museum. You know what I mean? Like people taking pictures, and so yeah, I mean, it's nostalgic. So and I know that this is going to be on a whole nother level once they open up, because it's going to bring people from all over the world. Some people of which probably never even been to New York. And they're going to come there for the first time in New
York. I'm looking forward to it. I've never been to New York. I have a daughter that went. I've never been to New York.
See, you're gonna have a good time once you go.
Yeah,
I can guarantee it.
Yeah,
just make sure you have your camera so you can take some pictures.
Right. And somebody tell me where to go stay. Like I be asking, where do I go? Where do I don't go?
Yeah. Now here's the interesting thing about the museum opening up next year, which I think is very convenient. If you didn't know already, they're going to have a hotel right within the building that the museum is in. So once you book your flight to get there, you can book a room to stay at the museum. You know what I mean? So like that's going to be the cool part. It's going to be a hotel inside of the museum.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's real exciting. It's going to be an exciting experience. So I want to thank you so much, Antonia. We're going to conclude right now.
Thank you for including me.
Yeah. I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. And like I said, who knows what'll happen between now and the next year and so on and so forth. But you're well on your way with doing what you should be doing in regard to hip hop, because people need to see these type of things. They need to see it. It's difference between talking about it and making it a reality, you know. And what you've done so far is really, you should be commended, because you have a lot of great artifacts in your museum. Yeah, a lot of great artifacts.
You do too. I see on Facebook, but I'm telling you, when I come, you're gonna say, she said she's coming. It's just I'm coming. Just like I'm going to see that brother, and he's been up here before too. But I'm coming this year. You know.
Well, we'll be here when you're ready.
Right. I'm coming, y'all, on the bucket list. The two of y'all on the bucket list. And after I do that, then I'll put some other stuff, but y'all on the bucket list.
That's what's up.
Okay.
All right, Antonia. Well, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll be in touch sooner than later, okay?
Okay, and I'm gonna send you that information about that museum.
Yeah, definitely.
You might be there too. Watch.
Yeah, definitely. I want to keep
Green Bay too.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you'll like it.
Okay, that's what's up. All right, y'all. We will be back next Friday once again, the same time, same platform. This is Rep Your City, and this is Artistic, and my special guest, Antonia Anderson. We will catch you next time.
That's right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. Bye.